I, 43F, have 2 children. Sarah 17F and Aiden 15 meters. 9 years ago, my late husband passed away in a fatal car crash. I was devastated. I was afraid for my kids to grow up without a father, and I was afraid to be alone. Luckily, my family stepped up. My brother-in-law acted as a surrogate father for my kids. My sister and Bill do not have kids of their own, but were happy to help us out. 5 years ago, I met my now husband 47 meters and his daughter, Elizabeth 17F, at a friend's housewarming party. I was hesitant to date again, but I took things slow, making sure he was a good man to be around my kids. I discussed my kids' feelings with them along every important milestone and made sure they were comfortable with my husband and stepdaughter. When he proposed, and I spoke to my kids about how they felt, only one request, the promise, was made. I would make sure that my kids and I had time together, just the 3 of us still. I agreed to take my children out twice a month, just the 3 of us, with exceptions if need be. As my kids remember their father, and Elizabeth's mother was still in her life, we made a rule that neither of us would try to be parents to our stepkids. We are responsible for our bio kids. This was discussed with all the children together. Our kids are also allowed to choose how they feel about one another, whether or not they wished for a sibling relationship or something else. It's not up for my husband and I to decide. Back to present time, I still regularly take my kids out twice a month for an adventure with the 3 of us. This could be going out to dinner, a movie, the zoo, etc. I also take Elizabeth with me for some things, such as getting our nails done, shopping, volunteering. Sometimes my kids will come along as well. My husband and I are still responsible for our own kids. We parent them differently, but that's what is causing the problems. We are each in charge of grades, party planning, rewards, punishments, special parent-child time, chore lists, curfews/rules. The issue is, I am far more active in my kids' lives than my husband is. I regularly celebrate my children, go to all their events, keep on top of their grades. I know where my kids are, I listen to their concerns, and speak about their lives. My husband doesn't do those things for my stepdaughter. I think I underestimated how much this is creating tension between our kids. Elizabeth and Aiden don't interact with one another. Elizabeth and Sarah absolutely despise one another. Sarah and Aiden are best friends. My husband came to me yesterday and said we needed to talk about how Sarah and Aiden, mostly Sarah, treat Elizabeth. He pointed out several instances of exclusionary behavior. Such as, Sarah driving Aiden around but not Elizabeth. Sarah and Aiden deciding to have the 2 bedrooms across the house from Sarah. Originally Aiden and Elizabeth would have had them, Sarah not inviting Elizabeth on her birthday trip to Cedar Point despite them having the same friend group. Sarah spending money buying Aiden gifts but not Elizabeth. Aiden refusing to allow Elizabeth to use his technology. Sarah and Aiden only doing things Elizabeth doesn't enjoy while at home or stopping when Elizabeth wants to join. Aiden refusing to cook for Elizabeth. Sarah buying all 3 of them locks for their bedroom doors, which my husband claims was only to make it look like Sarah did something nice for Elizabeth. My husband claimed that I was the cause of this problem by setting the example of excluding Elizabeth with the promise I made to my kids. He demands that I stop the practice and start to treat Elizabeth like my own kid. I said no, as that is not part of our agreement. Elizabeth isn't the one asking me, he isn't willing to step up and act as a father to my kids, and my children come first. I will always make them feel valued. I'm the only one however plans anything for the kids. Since we've bought a house together, he has only planned birthday parties for Elizabeth. Nothing else. He doesn't plan family trips, dinners, celebratory events, none of that. I know he won't put in any effort for my kids as he barely does for his own. When I brought this up to him in the past, he said it's not my problem and reminds me of our agreement. Oh, and since I didn't add it in, I'm going to speak to both of my kids separately and then together to get to the bottom of their behavior. Update 1. A lot has happened in that time. First, I want to address some information that was previously left out in my original post. It seems I am not a very good writer. I also apologize in advance for using a lot of lists in this post. It helps me think to have things written out. 1. Aiden is a boy. I accidentally wrote 15F, but I fixed that. My mistake. 2. Both my husband and I were unaware of the dynamic in our household. We both work long hours during the week and don't spend much time together at home. For context, my work schedule is 8 to 6 Monday to Thursday. I have Fridays and Sundays off, and the option to come in on Saturdays when I wish to. My kids and I go to sleep around 8 to 9, Elizabeth stays up a little later, and my husband goes to sleep around 7. He works 12-hour shifts from 6 to 6 every day and wakes up for work around 5. He also has Fridays and Sundays off. I usually plan for the weekends on Monday, which we typically are out of the house for. We as in me, always, my kids, stepdaughter, and hubby. 3. I do spend time with my stepdaughter, as stated in the previous post. 4. My husband and Elizabeth have different ideas of spending time together. For me and my kids, it's getting out of the house. For those 2, it's staying home, playing board games or watching a movie. This activity started because my husband wasn't in a good financial situation post-divorce and he couldn't afford to take her out often. So they did spend a lot of time together. 5. Elizabeth's mother, Bailey, is in jail and has been for 5 months. She committed a small crime and was sentenced to a year. She keeps in contact with Elizabeth via phone calls, letters, and visitation. Saturdays are usually spent now with me and Elizabeth going to visit Bailey, unless I need to work. Her father doesn't bring her. 6. My kids and Elizabeth did get along. The exclusion doesn't happen during family trips or when I'm around. 7. Sarah has a car but Elizabeth doesn't, though she has a license. Sarah has been working since she was 15 and I agreed that I would pay half plus insurance, while Sarah pays the other half plus gas. 8. Aiden was also not on the Cedar Point trip. I paid for most of the cost but Sarah helped and a lot of the other girls' parents plus kids chipped in as well. 9. I am more strict with my kids than my husband is with Elizabeth. They have a curfew, grade expectations, safety regulations, etc. I think that's it, but I might add some if I think of anything else. I am also going to address the previous points. These are not justifications, just how I see them along with more clarification. Sarah driving Aiden around but not Elizabeth. Aiden does not have a license and has multiple outside activities. Elizabeth drives either mine or my husband's car. Sarah and Aiden deciding to have the 2 bedrooms across the house from Sarah. Originally Aiden and Elizabeth would have had them. Our house has 2 master bedrooms and 2 regular bedrooms. Sarah was going to have one of the masters, but she insisted Elizabeth take it, her reasoning being she won't have to share a bathroom with her stepbrother. The 2 masters are on the main floor, the regular rooms are on the second floor. Literally just a hallway with bedrooms and a bathroom. Sarah not inviting Elizabeth on her birthday trip to Cedar Point despite them having the same friend group. Said in point 8 Sarah spending money buying Aiden gifts but not Elizabeth. Don't see a problem with this. Sarah earns her own money, she can spend it as she pleases. Aiden refusing to allow Elizabeth to use his technology. He and Sarah are both gamers but Aiden is 10x more invested in it than Sarah. Sarah and Aiden only doing things Elizabeth doesn't enjoy while at home or stopping when Elizabeth wants to join. Not sure but defo not okay. Aiden refusing to cook for Elizabeth. Aiden cooked a lot as a kid and developed a passion for it. He cooks dinner for the entire fam, including Elizabeth, and will cook separate things on Sarah's request, like lunch or breakfast, and she will also buy him ingredients for new recipes either of them wish to try. Sarah buying all 3 of them locks for their bedroom doors, which my husband claims was only to make it look like Sarah did something nice for Elizabeth. This one I also see no issue with. Privacy is important and all 3 installed their locks. Update 2. I spoke with all 3 kids last night separately and told them all to write a list of things they want to address in today's family meeting. I found out a lot that absolutely shocked me when I spoke privately. For the family meeting, we all sat down in the living room. I asked Elizabeth to speak first, since she is the one who is upset and without explanation for her behavior. She reiterated the statements above, and added some things on her list. Elizabeth's list: movie nights upstairs without her, refusing to drive her to school / leaving without her. Refusing to even attempt a sibling relationship with her. Putting locks on their doors and using the bathroom to be able to visit each other / hang out. Gaming without her. Elizabeth said she felt as if they hated her and wanted her gone. She said she is just as worthy of a parent as Sarah and Aiden were, and how it's unfair that we get to be a family and she doesn't have one. Sarah, very rudely, asked if she honestly felt she has any less of a family than she and Aiden do. Elizabeth was going to say something else, but my husband stepped in and asked Sarah to read her list. Though Sarah told me last night about what Elizabeth had been doing, I didn't expect how bluntly she would bring it up. Sarah's list: breaking into their bedrooms and stealing their stuff / food. Insisting on sharing clothes / matching. Insisting on a sibling relationship when already declined by both. Following her around school and forcing herself into Sarah's friend group despite being told multiple times to leave them alone. Threatening to go to teachers / me and hubby if they didn't. Stealing and then ruining Sarah's makeup. Telling my kids they should be happy their father died because now they have her dad and a sister. Making inappropriate comments towards anime characters out loud while watching together. This includes minors. Insisting Aiden has a crush on her. Getting handset with Aiden and then getting defensive when Sarah intervenes / calls her out for doing so. This is the real reason Sarah insisted on the bedroom situation, purchasing 2 fun items and giving one to Sarah after she confessed to a crush on TV. Throwing a fit whenever she loses in a game or any form of competition. Refuses to study / spend time on school and then complaining when she doesn't get good grades. Expecting me to step up and do everything for her, even though I do not do those things for even my own kids, instead of her father. Constantly being late getting ready for school and then being upset they don't wait for her. Flirting with Sarah's boyfriend at the time because sisters share everything. Refusing to get a job or do anything worthwhile while being jealous of both kids' accomplishments. When she was done, I asked Aiden if Elizabeth was really trying to touch him. He didn't answer at first, but after a moment said yes. Elizabeth denied it immediately, but Sarah shut her down and said she wasn't finished speaking. Sarah told Elizabeth that she was a disgusting human being, that she thinks he can get away with anything she wants but she can't. None of their friends like her and wouldn't be around her if Elizabeth didn't make them. That she was spoiled and entitled. That if she ever tried to do anything with her brother, Sarah and everyone else would make her life living hell. I stopped Sarah there, as I don't tolerate threats of violence. Elizabeth said it's not fair, that she and Sarah have similar interests, and that she's only treated worse because she's ugly and Sarah isn't. When you do it, it's cool. When I do it, it's trashy and weird. Sarah argued back, saying it doesn't have anything to do with her looks, she's just a bad person. Elizabeth brought up how Sarah is the bad one, purposefully excluding her, spending time with me separately, refusing to acknowledge her in the house she lives in, refusing to accept her and her father as family, that they both lost a parent. Sarah, my dad is dead. He's never coming back. Your mom is in jail. You speak with her daily. See her every week. It's not the same at all. Elizabeth, it is the same. I share my dad, you're just bitching that you have to share your mom now. Sarah, at least my dad didn't choose to leave me. Your mom had a choice and I can see why she chose it. Elizabeth slapped Sarah. Aiden punched Elizabeth. Husband shoved Aiden into a mirror hung on the wall. I started screaming at my husband to keep his hands off of my children while telling my kids to go pack a bag. Kids ran off, Elizabeth followed them, husband and I were screaming at each other. I could hear Elizabeth pounding on their doors and crying. After a lot of yelling my husband slapped me, then Sarah started screaming at Elizabeth. Apparently Aiden was putting the bags in the car, and the girls disappeared. I found them in my bedroom fighting because Sarah was packing a bag for me. I told Sarah to go wait in the car while I pack. She hesitantly obeyed. I packed my bag while husband and Elizabeth were screaming at me, then left. Sarah was on the curb in the driver's seat, so I let her drive away and then told her to switch with me. My son had to be taken to the hospital as the mirror had cut him. Aiden needed 17 stitches and has a concussion. I am pressing charges against my husband and filing for separation and divorce immediately. I'm currently writing this from our hotel room. I spoke to Sarah and asked why she didn't bring any of this up previously. She told me that Elizabeth only started acting like that after husband had already proposed, and both she and Aiden wanted me to be happy, because they'd seen how depressed I was after my late husband died. This obviously broke my heart. I told her, and later Aiden, that they are my happiness. Sarah argued and said that since I'd made so many sacrifices it's only fair that they did too. I promised her that she never needs to sacrifice anything for me, as I am their mother. Sarah started crying, apologizing and just saying how she never meant for me to lose another husband and that she never would have let Aiden get hurt. I kept reassuring her the whole ride to our hotel. My kids are asleep now. I'm scared. Neither husband nor Elizabeth has contacted me. I'm not sure if I want them to. Now on to second story. Sister used her husband as an excuse to belittle me and my mother, then tried to sabotage my career. I, 26F, live in a small town with a lot of family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, basically everyone related to me lives here. My sister Lilia, 28F, married her husband Sean, 31 male, last year. I don't know him very well, but I don't have a problem with him either. Every other weekend, my mom will host a party type thing for the whole family. There's food, decorations, music, etc. Everyone has a blast. A few months ago, my sister started acting kind of strange at these parties. Her husband isn't a very social person from what I can tell. He usually stands off to the side, sometimes without food. Lilia started making comments, usually to our immediate family, but sometimes to anyone who'll listen, about how Sean thinks the decorations look tacky or Sean thinks the music is too loud. At first it was basically harmless, but the comments got worse and worse. She started saying things like that outside of family parties, too. The weekend before last, she made small talk for a while before saying, Sean doesn't look like he's having a good time. I don't think he likes the food very much. I can't really blame him, we don't usually eat at low-class restaurants like yours. Her comments always pissed me off, but this pushed me pretty hard. My mom works really hard to make delicious food for these parties. She's a chef at Olive Garden. I guess my mom could tell I was getting upset, so she pulled me aside and told me not say anything to Lilia, that it wasn't a big stuff like that. I respected her wishes, even though I really wanted to stand up for her. Last week, Lilia called and said Sean's best friend is getting married. I'm a wedding planner, and she wants me to plan the wedding. I said sure. This weekend, Sean's best friend and his fiancée had a joint bachelor and bachelorette party. Lilia is a bridesmaid. She invited me to come along so I could meet the bride and groom, and probably officially become their wedding planner. When I arrived at the club, Lilia immediately grabbed my wrist and pulled me to the bathroom. She said, Sean isn't happy. No one will take you seriously as a wedding planner if you dress like a slut. You embarrassed him, and now, the groom / will blame him for recommending a shitty planner. I had enough of her at that point. It felt like she was just using Sean as an excuse to voice her own opinions. I said, if Sean thinks I'm a shitty wedding planner for dressing normally for a damn club, he can get, the groom / a new wedding planner. I walked out and went home. Ada? NTA. Your sister is a seriously crappy person. She constantly complains about the work you and your mom do. She has the audacity to put the blame on her husband. Have you ever actually heard him say anything like this? I would be willing to bet she is the one with all the issues. And they are all reflective of her own insecurities. Oop, no, we don't normally talk, and as far as I can tell he's never said anything like this. So, walk up to him and directly tell him what your sister said and ask if he said it. Call him out. If he looks at you blankly or says what are you talking about? Tell him your sister is making a fool of him and good luck. Oop, that's a good idea. Thank you. Info, legit, what do you feel like might have been odd behavior here? Oop, my mom specifically said not to say anything about my sister's behavior. She has stage 4 cancer. I always do my best to respect her wishes, because I don't know how much longer I'll be with her. Info, is Sean ever happy? He sounds like someone who is happy because he's unhappy, if you get what I mean. NTA, and honestly, you dodged a bullet. There is no way you could make Sean or his friend happy planning their weddings. Oop, he doesn't always look like he's happy or having a good time. Maybe he just doesn't like to look happy around a crowd or in public. NTA, but why would you want to involve yourself deeper with miserable Sean and subject yourself to potentially being made to feel less than? Do you think he's suddenly going to become supportive and love all your party ideas? Oop, he's never directly said any of those comments to me, so I have no way of knowing if he actually said those things or not until I confront him, which will do. I figured it was a good work opportunity. Info, do you think Sean is trying to isolate your sister from her family? Oop, no, I think these are her opinions she's voicing through Sean. Maybe he is trying to isolate her, I don't know. First, NTA, no matter if it is Sean or your sister. Not nitpicking, just as, King, are they having the bachelor party like super early? I've only heard of them like at most a month or so before a wedding. That really didn't give you any time to plan. Makes me wonder if your sister only called you out to mock you or make you look crazy. Like some rando trying to get a job. Just saying, it feels a bit off. Oop, I thought they just wanted an excuse to have a party with all their friends. Update 1. I ended up inviting Sean and Lilia out to lunch. Lilia was still a little upset that I had dressed like a slut at the club, but mostly things went fine. Before we left, I asked Sean if he thought my outfit at the club was inappropriate. He said no. I asked if thought my mother's cooking was bad. He said no again, this time he looked more confused. Before I could ask him about another comment, Lilia grabbed his arm and pulled him up. She said they had to go. Sean looked even more confused and told Lilia he wanted to hear what I was going to ask next. She looked visibly angry, and after I asked him if he thought the decorations were tacky, Lilia said, "If you're not coming, I'm leaving without you." She ran to the car before either of us could stop her. Sean was really confused now and asked why I thought he didn't like the food, etc. I told him the whole story of how Lilia was telling me and my immediate family he was saying rude things. He looked completely shocked now. He said he never said any of those things, and that he thinks the parties are wonderful. He explained he's just a little antisocial and gets nervous around people he doesn't know well, which I totally get. He apologized if anything he did was offensive, but I said there was no need for an apology. I gave him a ride home. Lilia took off with their car. When we got there, my sister's car wasn't in the driveway. I went to my mom's house next to drop off some stuff I had for her in the car. When I got there, Lilia's car was parked outside. She was sitting at the dining table crying, and my mom was doing her best to comfort her. When my sister saw me, she started crying even harder. I sat down and waited until she could calm down. When she finally did, I gently asked why she was saying all those things. Lilia said, "I don't know. To make you hate him, I guess." My mom asked why she wanted us to hate him. She kept replying to our questions with "I don't knows" before admitting the truth. She said she'd been feeling jealous since our brother Eric got married. She felt like he was getting all the attention, especially when his wife announced her pregnancy. She also said Eric was always the golden child growing up, and she wanted people to notice her just this once. I never thought he was the golden child. In fact, Lilia seemed to be favored over him, but maybe I was too wrapped up in my own stuff to notice. My sister decided to stir up some drama to get the attention back on her. She used Sean, because no one in the family knew him very well, and it was easy because he doesn't interact with a lot of people. She claimed she wanted the attention so badly, even if it was negative. She wanted to see how far we'd let her go before one of us snapped. After a long talk, she promised never to do anything like this again, and admitted she mostly did all this out of resentment toward Eric for always stealing the spotlight. My mom promised to pay more attention to her, and she apologized if she ever made Lilia feel like Eric was better than her. We all hugged it out. Earlier tonight, Lilia called me and said she and Sean were going to try couples therapy, and she was going to get individual therapy for herself. I said I was happy for her and she can come to me if she ever needs anything. I guess that's it. I'll update again if anything else happens. Almost infinity. Personally, I would never trust Lilia with anything ever again, especially because she craved attention so much she didn't care if it made her partner, a man she supposedly loves, into tea. He bad guy. What's stopping her from doing that to any one of you if she could do that to the man she made vows with? My mom promised to pay more attention to her, and she apologized if she ever made Lilia feel like Eric was better than her. I don't really like this response, to be honest. Lilia straight up admitted she wanted people to hate Sean for no reason, and she gets rewarded with love and more attention. Oop, my mom has stage 4 cancer, and we don't know how much longer she'll be here. I completely understand wanting this all to just be over and cherishing the time she has left with her daughter. But in a different situation, I 100% agree that this wouldn't be a great response. Honestly, if I were you, I'd give your sister some LC space. Because she's acted horribly to all of you and at her poor husband's expense. All because she didn't have enough attention. She needs help and you need to stay away from her for a bit. She's just drama at this point. Oop, I would, but I think a lot of this was caused by mom's declining health. I want to be there for all of my family if the worst were to happen. You can still be there for your mom while keeping low contact with your sister. Stop making excuses for her. Oop, my mom wants Olive to be there for her as a family. If I went low contact, it would really hurt my mom and cause other damage to the family. I also think this is just Lilia's way of dealing with the grief of possibly losing our mom. It doesn't excuse her behavior, of course, but I can't go low contact now when she needs me. At the very least, Sean has to know. You all feel bound by blood and hard times, and there's nothing wrong with that, but he deserves the right to choose if he wants to spend his life with someone who would do something like this to him. That level of attention seeking and all the reasons behind it need therapy.